Welcome to a special episode of the Golden Age of Orthodontics. Today we're doing things a little bit differently. Longtime listeners know that Amy Epstein and I usually sit in the interviewer seat. But as the Golden Age of Orthodontic podcast closes in on, wait for it, 1.5 million views, shout out to our loyal listeners, in this episode, we decided to turn the tables. We invited a special guest to interview us. Alison Werner is joining us today. You may know her as the editor-in-chief of Orthodontic Products, and she's someone who knows our industry inside and out. Stick around in this episode where we pull back the curtain and let you in on our story. Our Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast sponsors make it possible for us to bring you new episodes. Cale Owen is revolutionizing orthodontics by turning the chaos of conventional braces into custom control. Their custom digital solution helps you achieve consistent results while saving on average over 7 appointments per patient. It's custom done right, so you can focus on delivering amazing smiles. Find out how Cale Owen can modernize your practice. Book a demo today and get $250 off when you mention People in Practice to your representative. Created by an orthodontist, Grin is redefining remote monitoring with a cost-effective solution that boosts practice efficiency while delivering personalized care for each patient. Grin provides you with dedicated assistance, enabling you to focus on providing exceptional care, all while saving valuable time for you and your patients. New customers can save up to 35% on their starter package. Transform your practice. Better care begins with Grin. To find out more about our podcast sponsors, visit pplpractice.com/partners.
The future of orthodontics is evolving and changing every day. But although the way to achieve practice growth has changed, there's never been a better time to be an orthodontist. Let's get into the minds of industry leaders, forward-thinking orthodontists, and technology insiders to learn how they see the future of the orthodontic specialty. How will digital orthodontics, artificial intelligence, clear aligner therapy, remote monitoring, in-house printing, and other innovations change the way you practice? Join your hosts, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein, each month as they bring you insights, tips, and guest interviews focused on helping you capitalize on the opportunities for practice growth. And now, welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics with the co-founders of People in Practice, Dr. Leon Klempner and Amy Epstein.
Welcome to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. I'm Leon Klempner, a board-certified orthodontist who practiced for almost 40 years before retiring. I'm currently the director of orthodontics at Mount Sinai Hospital, part-time faculty at both Harvard and Montefiore, as well as the CEO of People in Practice. As usual, I'm joined by my partner and daughter, not in that order, Amy Epstein. Amy, are you ready for the hot seat?
I'm excited to try something new. This is I have to reframe the way I prepare for the podcast today. So yeah, I'm excited to try something new. Yeah, like you said, we're switching it up, and we're the ones that are going to be interviewed today. And we couldn't ask for a better interviewer than Alison Werner. A little bit about Alison. She is the editor of Orthodontic Products magazine, both its print and its digital editions, where she has been covering the business and clinical sides of orthodontics for more than a decade. She's interviewed just about every major player in the field of orthodontics, written extensively on the trends shaping the industry, and she knows how to get straight to the good stuff. She's also served as a director of business intelligence for orthodontics and plastic surgery at MedCore. So when it comes to data and strategy, she's got that covered too. She's also a really nice person. So we're excited to have you, Alison. Thank you so much for being here.
It's so great to be here. I really appreciate you guys letting me come play in your backyard. So I'm looking forward to this.
Well, welcome. So without further ado, we'll flip the mic over to you, and I guess we'll answer honestly whatever you have to throw our way today.
I promise to make it painless. Well, okay, so let's get started. How did the two of you decide to start a podcast? Where did that idea come from?
So let me think back. It was right about the time that the direct-to-consumer companies were spending a lot of money on advertising, opening up these smile studios or shops and doing their own scanning. And at the time, I was one of the state representatives for our Orthodontic Society. So I decided to have like a town meeting. And I brought together a few dozen orthodontists, all competitors, but we're all sat, played nicely together, and shared our thoughts and ideas. And what I came away with is that everybody was nervous about their future. So I wanted to create something, a platform where orthos could stay up to date on the latest news, emerging technologies, just talk about relevant issues. So I said to Amy, let's start a podcast.
And I said, sure. Let's start a podcast. And interestingly, it was, it's the Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast. And originally it was called something else. And it was funny. I was, a little bit of mindless morning sort of scrolling through Instagram and whatever comes my way. And it's funny that this came up. It was just a woman saying that she did something unconventional, which is she renamed her baby after the baby was born. And
wow.
People don't do that,
right?
Because, baby has a name, whatever. But 9 months in, she's like, that baby and that name do not fit. And that's sort of what happened with us. It was called the Survival Guide for Orthodontists. Bought the domains and every version of the domain or whatever. And, after a couple of episodes, we realized that it's what we're bringing to the table are not survival tips. They're ways for practices to thrive. And so we changed the name, I don't know, probably less than a year in, I think, because, it was a better match for what we were bringing to orthodontics.
Okay. Well, so now you've actually hit a major milestone. At the beginning of this year, you hit 1 million views on the podcast. So tell me, what does it mean to you to have what might be one of the most successful podcasts in orthodontics right now?
Well, let me start and just say that it's humbling. It's really a privilege. It's an honor. And to be honest, truthfully, I never expected it to be this popular. So I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We really couldn't do it without them, but we didn't think it was going to be like this. Put it that way, Alison.
Yeah. And actually, I didn't think it was going to be like anything, to be He said, let's start a podcast. And I was like, okay, we'll start a podcast. It'll be fun. We'll do it from our, the basement. We'll have 2 listeners, my mom and my husband probably.
No. Your mom wouldn't listen. Your mom wouldn't.
That's right.
You're surprised how family doesn't listen.
But, I think he didn't. He definitely had a vision for it. I underestimated how much demand there would be for real, accessible, timely, future-focused information about what's happening in the orthodontic industry. And, as we were, we already had people in practice going at the time. We had clients, and it always surprises me when we talk to our clients about what else is happening in the industry. And because we have clients everywhere, we can say, oh, we're seeing this here, or we were just at this trade show or whatever, and we're bringing that information in. And I think I took for granted that there was more cross communication among orthodontists than there actually is, and it's such a demanding profession, and there's so much going on in your own practice that getting information from the outside is not as easy as you'd think it would be. So I think part of it is that. And just a side note that after we were doing the podcast for a little bit, it was a little surreal because, we do the video as well as the audio. And the first time after the show had picked up some speed, and the first time we were walking the AAO trade show floor, and people were stopping us and saying thank you for doing the podcast and asking questions and I was taken aback because, he's been around for a while. If you've met him in person, but my dad is very, very tall, and he's also like
easy
knows
to spot.
Everybody. You're easy to find, Dad. And people would stop me, and I'm like, it was a little, it was surprising and very humbling in the beginning to be recognized, and then also thanked for the work that we're doing. So it's very rewarding.
Yeah. Well, now I'm kind of curious, what's it like working together as a father and daughter and kind of hosting this as a team? And how did your collaboration come about initially? Which came first, the podcast or the marketing agency at this point?
Yeah, the agency came first.
Okay.
The partnership, the skill partnership bit was an easy logical thing. He's got the clinical side and the business of orthodontics, and I've got the marketing and public relations side and running an agency side of the business. And so that putting those two things together, we kind of had everything covered. So that was a no-brainer. From a sort of softer side of things, he's the dream as evidenced by the podcast response, like my response to him wanting to start a podcast. He's the dreamer. I'm on the ground, poking holes in everything.
It's a balance.
Yes. This is the CEO, COO dynamic. But, we get along. Actually, my nuclear family, like my sisters, my parents, like, we get along. We're like very lucky, and I think among the rare groups of family as adults that really get along. Yeah. And so for us, it's easy. It's really easy. So it's nice to come to work every day.
Yeah. What about you, Leon?
So, we have a lot of clients that are legacy practices where dads work with their sons and daughters, so they could relate to what I'm going to say. But I can tell you, it doesn't get any better for a dad to be working with his daughter. It's a blessing in so many ways. I'm so grateful for it. And just anecdotally, when I was in practice, I had a pretty busy practice. I was practicing by myself for a good 15, 20 years. I had built up maybe a practice and a half. I needed somebody to come in, and my daughters were coming of age. And I said, okay, one of these three are going to be an orthodontist. They're going to come into the practice. We'll practice together. So it started with Amy, who decided no.
That was easy to identify that I was not going to be that daughter.
No. My youngest daughter, Jody, wanted to go be a speech therapist, which she has become. But my middle daughter had some aspirations. Didn't last that long. She's now an oncology nurse. So they all have their own careers. But it's interesting because I tried to get one of my daughters into my profession, and it ended up that one of my daughters got me into their profession. So it actually worked out well. But, to get back to which came first, as Amy said, the agency came first. And, the idea for us was we wanted to help orthos grow their practices with state-of-the-art marketing. And Amy came from a background of working with these large corporations that did digital marketing, and she showed me how to do it in my own practice. So we wanted to create something explicitly tailored to orthodontists. So the agency came first. The podcast came as an extension of that mission. We saw a gap in the conversation. There wasn't really a good platform for orthodontists that could hear from forward-thinking voices in the profession. Someone, we just wanted to expand on it, and it just seemed like a natural progression.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now let's talk about the agency. So you've worked with practices kind of using a number of different digital tools. How do you use marketing these digital tools to differentiate your clients' practice from their competitors?
Yeah, so we were talking about this as a group at People in Practice internally pretty recently. And, the Golden Age of Orthodontics podcast, we bring on a lot of technology providers, and we try to talk about the tools available. And that's why we think it's the golden age, right? Like we more than ever before, there's so many opportunities to be able to be an orthodontist in a really innovative, patient-centric, high standard of care way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about the stuff, really, for patients at least. When you talk about the marketing, it's not about the technology. And, the earliest examples like the iTero, right? Everyone wants to feature the iTero. But it's not about the iTero. It's about not having to do those like goopy alginate impressions and like, the ones that have the gag reflex, a better patient experience, right? So my dad mentioned I came from, working with large, multinational firms in digital marketing. The first agency I ever worked at, I'm going to give a shout out to Alan Isaacson, who was my boss and the, CEO of ABI, which was my first job. I was 23. It's like over 20 years ago. And the thing that he really it was the mantra, it was the ethos of the place, was asking yourself, what's the benefit? Whoever you're talking to, whoever the target audience is, whoever you're trying to bring in as a customer, what's the benefit? I do not want to hear about it. Do not write about it. The media doesn't want to hear about it until you can clearly articulate what the benefit is to the people you're trying to attract, right? So that forced me to rewire my brain, where I constantly am like, it's like, okay, it's features and then benefits, features and benefits, features and benefits. And so we're always listening and trying to understand what the practice is offering and what makes them different in their communities from other practices. And then, okay, who do you want to attract? Is it teens? Is it adults or whatever? What is the benefit to them? And that is the way that we take those tools and we use it in our marketing. And then, of course, we're representing these technologies, Grin, KLON, like they're really innovative technologies. We need to highlight them. But, first and foremost is like, what is this going to do for you if you become a patient of ours?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point, because I talk to orthos every day, and it's one of the most misunderstood aspects that orthos have, which is that they feel that their technology is their differentiator. And as Amy said, it's not the technology, it's the experience it creates for whoever you're looking to attract for those new patients. So, our job is to, number one, help an orthodontist understand what they're good at, what their differentiator is, and then we can create the story, and we can push the story out across their website, across their ads, across their social. So it's not really, it doesn't really matter if your competitors have the same technology as you do. If they're not telling that story, they're not visible to potential new patients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to go back to the podcast for a second. You've interviewed a wide range of guests on your podcast with some of the biggest names in the industry. Are there any interviews that have really stuck with you and had impact for you?
Oh, Alison, so many. I really feel so honored to be in a position to speak with such, influential people. So talking with Joe Hogan, for an example, for those of you who don't know, he's the CEO of Invisalign. I always like speaking with him. He runs one of the most influential companies in orthodontics.
Remember the first time we had him on the show? It was in I don't know, we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. The first time we had Joe Hogan was one of the first episodes.
Oh, wow.
I have never sweated so much. We were new to the podcast, and I was like, people are going to see me. And I didn't know him quite yet. He's very gracious when it comes to being an interviewee or whatever. But I was like trying to keep it cool on that first. Oh my goodness, I can still remember everything about that recording.
It's funny how those things stick with you.
Yeah, they do. They do. It stuck with me, but for a different reason.
And whether you like Invisalign or you don't like Invisalign, I know there's a lot of pushback against them, and he happens to be a real nice guy, and he is interesting to speak with, and he's open to when I brought him on this last episode, I always ask, is there anything that you don't want me to talk about or don't ask you? And he said, no, you could ask me anything. And in this most recent episode, I asked him some pretty hardball questions, and he took them and he didn't take offense to them. And whether he answered them clearly or not, and I'll let you be the judge of that, but he certainly is gracious. So he stands out as one that, was a highlight for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, Amy?
It's Trey Lawrence every time. He's he's.
Love Trey. Gotta love Trey.
I mean, he's so accessible. Mm-hmm. He's so knowledgeable. General counsel and now the CEO of AAO.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much in there. He's also similar to how we try to democratize the information that we're collecting and what comes out of these interviews. With his Instagram, he does the same thing. So we're like on the same page about trying to get the good stuff out there. Mm-hmm. And he's easy to talk to. So I always we've had him on, I think maybe 3 times in 6 years or something mm-hmm. like that, but it's always something new and always something valuable, because if he says it, like, write it down, man, because it means something.
By the way, it's the orth attorney, not ortho attorney.
Yeah, orth attorney, like orthodontist on Instagram.
Or the orth attorney.
Orth attorney, right, exactly. So we're getting it right from now on, Trey. I promise you that.
Shout out to Trey.
So Trey always, but some of the other memorable episodes, at least on my side, have been ones that are with less well-known people in the orthodontic industry, let's say, but have very deep insights. We talked about practice embezzlement once with a forensic CPA, David Harris. We did a cybersecurity focused episode with Steve McAvoy from MME Consulting, which also works with the dental and dental industry up and down the East Coast. A lot of ortho clients. Those are about identifying risks, those unknowns, like bringing those in and highlighting the types of things that maybe you didn't realize you should have your eye on. Yeah. So those always stick with me.
And I want to give a shout out to Chris Benson as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Chris, he comes on every year. He shares incredible data, insights, perspective. So we really appreciate his contribution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that getting a front row seat to all the news in orthodontics helps you be a better marketing company for your clients. Talk to me about that, and what do you think makes you stand out as an agency?
Well, let me take that one. First of all, we're not just any marketing agency.
We're the best marketing agency on the planet.
Well, I'm not going to say that. You said that, not me. Send your emails to Amy at PPO Practice. Look, as much as it's hard for me to say, I've been in this industry for almost 50 years. Mm-hmm. So our brand, People in Practice, we branded that for a reason, because we're all about the people. We're deeply connected to the orthodontic community. And the podcast keeps us tuned in to what's new, whether it's new technologies, industry shifts, real world changes that practices are facing. We stay connected. And then we use, this is important, that we use what we learn to promote our clients, highlighting their consumer value, tapping into trends around growth and scalability, and translating insights into effective, practical marketing strategies. Yep.
I would also add, and this happens to be the thing that I was trained in, and that I kind of I do, and now we do as an agency with every client, is what makes us stand out is how we focus on making our clients stand out from their competitors in their community. So, one thing we always do before we do any marketing for anybody, we don't run one ad until we figure out what the practice's differentiated value is, like what's their unique selling proposition. And that's different for every practice, because the competitors are different, the market needs are different, what they do well, what they can consistently deliver on is different. And when you kind of put those three things together, it illuminates what actually matters. And we take that little nugget and we flesh it out and into words. And those words are they're foundational to any advertising or social media or communication to patients in the office, whatever it is. It sort of speaks to that North Star, and which is usually very much a function of like the technology that they use or the culture in the practice and the culture in the practice. Like I said, it's different for everyone, but it's very much fueled by what kinds of technology they bring in and how they focus on the patient and delivering benefits to the patient. So in taking the time to do that work, we, I think, are serving our orthodontic clients in a much more strategic, thoughtful, and long-lasting way with the marketing that we do.
Yeah. Well, you talked there about how every practice is different. So I'm kind of wondering, how would you describe the kinds of practices you do work with at People in Practice?
Yep.
We work with all phases of orthodontic practice, but I just want to go back again to what Amy's point was recently about differentiating in the work that we do up front. Because I just want to add that we spend a lot of time up front before we put 1 ounce of energy into creating an ad or creating a logo or creating a website, because we first have to determine that proposition value and what that story is going to be. And the other part that is important is the competitive analysis. We want to see what's going on. What are your competitors saying? Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to tell the same story that somebody already telling.
Yeah.
So those are just nuances, but they're really, really important. Getting back to your question. So who do we work with? We work with startups, for example. We're seeing a lot of startups now. They have, limited budgets. Some of them have, coming out with considerable debt. So we're very sensitive to that. So, we have special programs that are designed to help practices get off the ground because we're looking for long-term relationships.
Yep. And those startups, sometimes they're ground up startups and sometimes they're starting out buying somebody's practice, but under a new brand or whatever. But either way, they're just starting their career and it's a different flavor of service that they need.
Yeah.
So from there, we work with all sorts of transitions. So let's say you're buying an existing practice or you're bringing on a new associate. So it could be very disruptive and very costly if to the practice if the communication isn't appropriately managed. And this is an area that Amy has a lot of expertise in. If you're buying a practice, you're buying the goodwill of the practice. You need to transfer that trust over. So it needs to be managed in a very sensitive manner.
And our program, by the way, the transition, we have a lot transitions. They're what happens in orthodontics, right?
Yeah.
Like people coming in, people going out, buying, selling, opening, closing, hopefully not closing, but these things happen. The very first transition communication program that I ever did was when my dad retired from his practice. And it was interesting. I mean, the whole framework of what we do now is built on that because there was no better way, I think, to consider everything than to be personally invested in the whole thing going well. It was like no stone unturned, no audience member, whether it was a referring doctor or whether it was like, the local pediatricians or whatever it is. What do they need to know? How do they need to know it? How do we promote David, who is his partner, who's, he's retiring and David's becoming the sole proprietor, the sole practitioner. How do we elevate David and transfer the trust? I've known David for ages. And so it was this like emotional investment in it that then led to like a very, very comprehensive program that then we could, it's evolved over the years, but that was the genesis of the transitions communications programs that we do.
Yeah.
So there's startups, there's transitions. Probably our bread and butter are established practices that are running at full steam. They've got their debt paid off.
they've got some money in the bank, and what they're seeing is their practices are leveling off or not growing the way they used to. And, I always counsel a lot of new or prospective practices that, what got you here won't necessarily get you there, that things have changed. And the days of, and this always amazes me, is the days of putting a multi-million-dollar practice, the marketing of a multi-million-dollar orthodontic practice in the hands of a dental assistant that is good at Facebook.
Yeah.
Always confused me.
But that's a sign of how times have changed, because I can remember that when I got into the orthodontic industry about 15 years ago, that's what it was.
That was the time.
Yeah. Now, we have AI, we have all sorts of changes in the orthodontic business landscape. Things are moving quickly and fast. So, you need some professional guidance, just like you would in any other field. And lastly, those practitioners that are looking to exit. So preparing to sell. Nobody wants to buy a practice, for example, that has outdated equipment and, looks like, it was refurbished in the 60s or 70s. The same applies to your digital footprint as well, your website, your Facebook page, things like that. So we help those practitioners that are looking to exit to shore up their numbers, to spiff up their digital assets, to make it more appealing for sale, and frankly, to get the most multiples if they're going to sell to a corporate entity.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap it up there on my end. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to interview you guys. Leon, I've interviewed you for the Orthodontic Products podcast, so it's kind of nice to come over and play over here in your backyard. And so thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. It's very unconventional for us, but I like it. It's good. It's like
you made it very comfortable.
Yes.
Well, good.
We appreciate it very much. And we love collaborating with Orthodontic Products. Anytime we have the opportunity, it's a great publication. What is the best way, Alison, for one of our podcast listeners to subscribe to OP if they haven't yet done?
So if you're interested in subscribing, go to our website, orthodonticproductsonline.com, and you will see a button there at the top for subscribe. And we have our online digital news, and we keep up with the industry on a daily basis. And you can find all that on our website. We also have social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. And then we also have the print magazine, and you can subscribe to that as well on the website. And that comes out, we have 9 issues a year, and we cover everything from clinical to practice management and kind of how the products that are coming out or on the market affect your practice. And then we also have the podcast as well, which Leon has very graciously been a guest on. And Amy, I need to have you on soon. But we have the podcast, comes out every 2 weeks, and we're talking to our most recent episodes were on how office hidden clauses in your office lease can affect your profitability. And we have now one on the issue of Invisalign trademark and what that means for your digital marketing. So definitely check it out. You could subscribe to us on all your major platforms, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and what's the other one? Amazon. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Alison. Appreciate it very much. Just like you can subscribe to the OP podcast on all of those platforms, you can likewise find us on them. And if you enjoyed this episode, we appreciate you telling a colleague about it. And if you're listening and interested in People in Practice as a marketing partner, we're offering something special to new clients. If you mention this podcast, you will get a free month of services when you sign up. And for our existing clients who may be tuning in, if you refer a colleague and they become a client, you and that colleague will both receive a month of services free. And you can reach us at leon@peopleinpractice.com, amy@pplpractice.com, or visit our website at, you guessed it, pplpractice.com.
And also, if you're looking to get involved in some of the latest and greatest technology, KLON and Grin have an offer on our partner page. Guess what the URL is? pplpractice.com. Anyway, most important thing is we really strongly believe that there has never been a better time to be an orthodontist. We're currently in the golden age, so please take advantage of it. Thanks again, Alison, and bye for now.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden Age of Orthodontics. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or visit our website at thegoldenageoforthodontics.com for direct links to both the audio and video versions of this episode.